sound check.
Thank you. Sorry, was that Councillor Visante?
It was. It's so
Yeah.
quiet.
Thank you.
Hi, Peter. It's Councillor Santos. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, members of council, welcome to our special council meeting of December 8th, 2021. This meeting is called for the specific purpose to consider the 2022-2024 budget for the city of Brampton. Under council's meeting rules, no other business can be considered at this special meeting. We will begin the meeting with the city clerk calling the roll for attendance at today's meeting.
Members of council, I will call your name. Please indicate your presence. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Councillor Visante.
Present.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi.
Present.
Councillor Bowman.
Present.
Councillor Medeiros.
Present.
Councillor Williams.
I'm here.
Councillor Fortini. Councillor Fortini. I'll come back to you.
Here, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Thank
Councillor Singh.
Present.
Councillor Dillon.
Here.
And Mayor Brown is present. All 11 members are present, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We're now at item 2, approval of the agenda. We have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi and seconded by Councillor Fortini to approve the agenda. Instead of seeking a recorded vote for this item, I'll ask, is there anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, your vote will count in the affirmative. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Declarations of municipal conflict of interest. Does any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? I see Councillor Fortini and Councillor Williams. Councillor Fortini.
My phone's not working for some reason. Yes, I'd like to declare a conflict under legislation for bylaw, as my daughter works for bylaw.
So, Mr. Mayor, that would be under item 6.1, recommendation BC 054-2021.
Thank you.
Councillor Willens.
Yes, through you, the mayor, to the clerk. I think the recommendation I have a conflict on is BC 046-2021, Public Works section.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. You'll just have to state the nature of your conflict.
Oh, it's my nephew works for the Public Works, so I believe this is the compensation portion of the budget.
Thank you.
Okay, the clerk will note for the meeting minutes. Before as we council consider the budget, there is another opportunity to hear from the public on this matter. We will proceed with the registered public delegations before council debates the budget. Public notice regarding the city's budget approval process leading towards tonight's special council meeting was advertised on the city's website, social media, as well as published in the Brampton Guardian. We have the following delegation registered at tonight's meeting. We have a delegation from Sarah Singh, MPP, Brampton Centre. Welcome, MPP Singh.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do see Sarah Singh joining, but her audio is not connected at the moment. So MPP Singh, if you can try and resolve your audio between WebEx and the device that you're connecting with. We can't, there we go, it's coming in right now. So welcome, MPP Singh. You have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Oh, this is me. Hello?
Yes.
Hi there. I'm just wondering if there's any video capabilities or if it's just voice. Just want to make sure I'm properly connected.
There is video.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to MPP Singh, can you please turn down? There's some feedback. We're hearing on your audio. I just want to confirm with our host. We may not be able to bring you in as a panelist to enable your video. Tammy, are you able to bring her in?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, no, I'm unable to make her a panelist.
That's not a problem. Thank you so much for the indulgence from members of council as well. Is the feedback issue still present, or can you hear me clearly now?
We can hear you much clearly now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you to members of council for the opportunity to delegate before you today and share some concerns, not only as the MPP for the riding of Brampton Centre, but as a lifelong Bramptonian. I know that hallway healthcare and the crisis in our hospitals has been an ongoing concern for many in our community, and something that I have also experienced and witnessed firsthand as someone who was born and raised in our community. And, I just want to first of all commend council for their leadership on the healthcare file and helping secure resources for our community. I know that was no easy feat, but I want to thank you so much for your leadership on that. But I do think that we must do more for the city of Brampton and for the people of our community. As you're well aware, Brampton Civic has been at capacity and over capacity routinely since 2017. Since the day that it's opened its doors, as has the Urgent Care Center of Peel Memorial. And in Brampton, we need more than just an expansion of our urgent care center. We need a full-service hospital and a third healthcare facility as well for our community. As a community that has never received its fair share in, healthcare dollars, it is concerning that the community will be on the hook for, $125 million for a project that is still not going to meet the needs of this community. I think that what concerns me is that taxpayers in the city of Brampton will be responsible for a large share of this project when they have never received their fair share of funding. And so I think we're asking and placing quite a big burden on our local community to help see this project come to fruition in our community. And I think that they deserve better than that. I think that it's still not entirely clear what exactly the city of Brampton will be able to move forward with this project and the commitments from the provincial government. And so to ask taxpayers to pay for approximately 250 beds over the next 7 years, I think is it's not fair to the city of Brampton, and it's not fair to the people of Brampton. I note that our local community here in the region of Peel, in Mississauga, for example, they will be receiving historic investments to expand their healthcare infrastructure, and yet Brampton has not received the same level of funding or supports from the provincial government to help us address our healthcare crisis here in the city of Brampton. And so I want to encourage our members of council to really reflect and think of the needs of our community, but how we can work together to ask the province to pay a greater share and ensure that the residents of Brampton are seeing their tax dollars reinvested into their local community, because I think that they deserve that and they deserve much better. And so I wanted to share those thoughts with you because I've been hearing from a number of our constituents and folks in our local community, but also as a lifelong Bramptonian. I'm worried that we will be required to pay more and more for healthcare over the years, and we still have not been receiving our fair share, and that I think it does a disservice to the taxpayers of our community. And so I wanted to share these perspectives, and I thank members of council for the opportunity to share these concerns.
The clerk was just saying to turn off your mic when you're done to minimize the feedback. Okay. Thank you, MPP Singh.
We do have a list.
We do?
Councillor 14, I guess questions? Councillor 14 and Councillor Willen.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. I appreciate the opportunity. I believe that is the end of my time. I'm not sure if there's any space for conversation, but if not, I appreciate the opportunity to share these concerns on behalf of our constituents, as well as a local member of our community.
Thank you, MPP Singh. I know we all care passionately about getting the best possible health care for our residents. And I think one of the reasons that we're starting to get real interest in this topic is because everyone from Brampton is shouting from the top of our lungs that we need to end hallway medicine. Thank you, MPP Singh, for your delegation. I don't see any questions.
There are two members listed to speak. I presume they're asking questions. We need to clarify.
Councillor Willens and Fertini, I have you making a note at 7:02. That was when you declared the conflict. You're not asking to speak on this, are you?
No, I'm not, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
So we need a motion to receive the delegation, moved by Councillor Fertini, seconded by Councillor Williams. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. This takes us to 5.1, John Street Junction activation. The report was requested during Budget Committee in response to a delegation. Do any members have questions or comments? If so, please use the chat function to add your name to the speakers list. Councillor Medeiros.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I believe I was first.
Oh, you're correct. Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I saw the report and the recommendations. I'm happy to move it or second it. The only thing that I would include is an amendment, and I mentioned my comments when the delegate had come forward. I'd like to include a bullet point number 4 that is subject to the following conditions, that it is in collaboration with the IDP process, so the Integrated Downtown Plan process, as well as with the Downtown BIA. My concern here is that as a board member of the Downtown BIA, I know that there's a lot of work being done, including the grant that I had mentioned when the delegate first presented. The BIA is in support of this project and is also willing to sponsor and contribute, but the board is waiting for a presentation on the project itself, like an official presentation to the board. And there are many downtown businesses. Obviously in the BIA, I also know that they're working on their own four corners, alleyways strategy as well. And I think the collaboration between Tracy, the BIA, as well as the process related to the IDP is important. I don't think that this project per se should be operating in or should be implemented in isolation of all those things. So that's the amendment that the, I guess, the agreement includes collaboration with the IDP process, Integrated Downtown Plan, as well as with the Downtown BIA, which is an agency of the city. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Medeiros.
Yeah, I'm happy to move it. I thank you for staff bringing it as it's in mine and Councillor Bowman's ward. We appreciate the report from staff. We certainly hope that there will be collaboration with all interested stakeholders. I'm also sitting on the BIA, actually two-term sitting on the BIA, and myself and Councillor Bowman, having been in contact with many of the businesses and with the applicant, Tracy, we're really excited to see what this project will bring, and great to see that this will also invigorate and spark other type of initiatives in the downtown. So happy to move it, and more than happy to welcome Councillor Bowman as my fellow councillor to move the report. Thank you.
Okay. No other speakers? Motion moved by Councillor Madero, seconded by Councillor Bowman. Councillor Sanders, did I hear you want to second it too? Or did I mishear that?
Yeah, sure, that would be great on behalf of the board of the BIA.
Okay, moved by Councillor Madero, seconded by Councillor Bowman and Santos. Recorded vote requested.
All in favor of the motion in regard to 5.1, please indicate. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Councillor Vasante.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
Councillor Medeiros.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Fortini.
Yes.
Councillor Singh.
Yes.
Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Mayor Brown.
Yes.
That carries unanimously 11-0.
Okay, this takes us to item 5.2. Additional information from staff in response to questions from Budget Committee. Do any members have any questions or comments? If so, please use the chat function. Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. There was one thing that I assumed was captured in the budget, and I assumed incorrectly, and that item was the backyard leaf program for Churchville. So a total of $4,800 that I wanted to add to the budget. It's a community, I think a lot of you know, that's well over 100 years old, with some of the largest trees in Brampton, causing some of our most beloved seniors down there heartache and issues. So similar situation in downtown Brampton now. So I'm asking for that program to be expanded to include Churchville. Was the one item that I wanted to add to the budget, Mr. Mayor, and then I had a second item that I'd also like to add to the budget.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead with that item too?
Yeah, I assume the first one moved by yourself and the ward councillor, Councillor Willens?
Sure.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Your next one, Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. We've done this in the past, and politically it really is optics. It doesn't make a huge impact, although it would certainly offset the additional cost of the LEAF program and some of the other costs as well. But I think given that, the year that we've had, staff have done a remarkable job. It's been extremely difficult on residents and staff. And I'm asking for a motion to freeze council's salary and not have an increase in 2022. And I don't have a seconder on that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Vasante and Fortini said in the chat box they'll second it. Anyone opposed to the motion put forward by Councillor Paleshi, seconded by Councillor Vasante and Fertini to freeze the council salary for the 2022 budget. Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. Oh, apologies, Councillor Fertini.
I'm on the board. Yep.
I thought you said second. You wrote speak, so I took that.
Yeah,
vote.
no, I'm happy to second that.
Okay.
Didn't we freeze our last? Just a quick question. Last term, did we
no,
got the increase 1.8?
No, everyone donated it to a charity of their choice last time.
Right, and we were supposed to bring a report back where we donated.
Yeah,
where
I think each
increase
council
was
was supposed
donated.
to share that, and Mayor, yeah.
Sorry?
I think we're all supposed to share that information.
Yeah, so can we share that in the New Year's? And I'm happy to freeze it. I remember last year we were supposed to receive an increase, but the increase was supposed to go to any charity that we like.
Okay.
So maybe in the next council meeting, we could all share where we sent our 1.8% increase.
Actually, that's a good idea, that we can put a name and a logo of all the charities that got supported.
Yep, okay, happy to second that. Thank you, Councilor Belanger.
I see Jason nodding that he can do a graphic for us.
Good.
We like giving him more work. Okay. We'll do the vote again because Councillor Fertini didn't get a chance to speak to it, and there was a request for a recorded vote. Over to the clerk.
Members of council, this is a recorded vote on the motion by Councillor Paleski to freeze council salaries at 2021 levels. All in favor, please indicate. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Councillor Vasante.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Paleski.
Yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
Councillor Medeiros.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Fortini.
Yes.
Councillor Singh.
Yes.
Councillor Dillon.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously, 11-0.
Okay.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we just need a motion then to receive the information in 5.2
Okay.
from mover and seconder.
We have a question from Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams?
Oh, I think it's for the next item.
Okay. Okay, so we need a motion to receive 5.2. Moved by Councillor Fortini, second by Councillor Santos. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. This takes us to 5.3. Is that the item you wanted to speak to, Councillor Williams? Housekeeping modifications for the Budget Committee recommendations?
Yes, thanks. I do have an amendment to the motion that I brought forward on Monday for bylaw. Is this the appropriate time to bring that forward for an amendment to it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you could do it now, or you could do it when we get to item 6.1, the Budget Committee recommendations, because you're going to be, I think you're proposing to amend one of those recommendations.
That's correct. Okay. Well, I'll wait for 6.1 so it's in the appropriate place in the agenda.
Okay. So we have the Council memo outlines housekeeping amendment to Budget Committee recommendations BC 059-2021, which we can consider when we get to Budget Committee recommendations. Does anyone want to speak to housekeeping modifications? Seeing none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Santos to receive this information. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. This takes us to 5.4, our next item, which is technical recommendations from staff to wrap up the budget. We can vote on these technical recommendations after voting on the Budget Committee recommendations. Do any members have questions or comments? If so, please use the chat function to add your name to the speakers list. Hearing none, we can move on and we'll vote on these technical motions at the end. 5.5. Additional information from staff in response to questions from Budget Committee. Do any members have any questions or comments? If so, please use the chat function. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Nash, for providing the information. I was looking at specifically regarding the Brampton U and how much we've spent over this term of council. So right now we're at a total of $606,000. In terms of the line item, which talks about stakeholder research, if staff can maybe speak to then what that gave us, because I do remember there was a report given to us by another group. I'm not sure, there was another line item, and we received a study or some form of position paper, and then there's line items for stakeholder research. My concern is around, we have stakeholder research, we have several people allocated to Brampton U. What exactly are we researching? What exactly are staff doing? What's the alignment on the money being spent? So far, I think we've only spent 79 this year, but I would like to know what the plans are for this year. Do we, is there going to be, you know, frankly, is it going to come back to council if we spend any more dollars? Or in this budget, are we approving more money towards the Brampton U? I will publicly, I have no intention of supporting any more money spent on the Brampton U when it comes to stakeholder lobbying, any of those activities. It's already been 3 years, and the 4th year, I do not see any sort of value for money or any return on investment. So if staff can speak to what are the intentions of the budget that we're approving, since it comes out of the CEO's budget, if maybe government relations can speak to what we plan on doing when it comes to Brampton U, and do we plan on spending any more money on stakeholder research? And if you can just explain that line item, what does that mean?
So, who is going to speak to that? Sir? Blaine? Blaine Lucas?
So through Mayor Brown to Councillor Medeiros, hopefully my sound and the video are working correctly.
Yes.
So to answer your question, Councillor, so just to be completely open and honest with you, I have the vendor stakeholder research associates was, that contract was finalized prior to my acceptance of this acting position as the director. There has been no more work with that company. I wasn't involved with the development of the RFP or the management of that vendor contract or any of the confirmation of the deliverables. So what I was responsible for, sir, was in April, in order to close off that contract, we made sure that the reports that were required in the RFP were submitted to the city, that those reports were reviewed, and that information was provided to my colleagues in finance and the procurement division to make sure that they met their obligations under the contract. So, so I think that hopefully that answers, sir, my involvement in with the vendor stakeholder research associates, which as far as your question, sir, around what is our move forward around the Brampton U project. Since April, like I had mentioned before, our focus has been on the, excuse me, the attraction of the University of Guelph Humber, to focus on the Brampton School of Medicine, and also through AMO and and through government advocacy positions of requesting the the province legislate a university for the city of Brampton that would be a comprehensive university that will support our citizens. So that advocacy and that work has been done internally. There has been no vendors retained in order to conduct that work, and that that advocacy has been done between the government relations staff and supported by members of council, and it's been captured by the staffing resources that council has provided to my division.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Blaine. I know it's a tough position you're in, and by no means that I want to put you under the spotlight. I just did not know. I do know we approved budget allocations, and I know some of this was in camera. But so this is a company, and I guess they would have done lobbyist or research for us. Is it lobbying activities they did for on our behalf?
Through the mayor to the councillor, the work that was done in 2021 was related to advocacy with the province in order to create the special purpose vehicle, which would lay the foundation for the creation of Brampton University, or the legislation in order for the province to legislate a comprehensive university for the city. That was the advocacy efforts that were part of that contract.
So
standing.
thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, then. So what we have here, the 78,000, the last, so 2021, that's what we've spent, and you're saying that the contracts come to an end?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, the contract has ended. I was asked, on behalf of the division for the procurement staff to confirm that all the reports and things that were captured in that RFP were submitted to the city. We did that, and then we notified procurement, and they closed off that tender. So
okay,
that tender has been resolved. There's no more money that has been flowed. There's no more work that has been assigned, and I believe the last contract extension was completed at the end of May, and we finalized the administrative component of that contract in April of this year.
Okay, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. So that's good to hear. So that no longer that we expect to be using the service, and there's not duplication going forward, that staff are working on the file. And I guess, I have more questions, but we'll deal it for a council meeting to look at the file and look at its expenditures and all this other questions I have with it. So I won't beleaguer the point for tonight, but I'm, assured that we don't spend not one more penny on lobbying activities or any of this stuff towards that initiative, and that we rely on staff. So thank you very much, Blaine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fortini.
Not on this topic, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to ask, we're talking about everything else. So when it comes to the hospital, do we speak on it now or we have to wait?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It could be now. There is a recommendation under Budget Committee recommendations regarding the funding commitment for the hospital, and it could be discussed then if that's...
Okay, I'll wait then. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other speakers. We have this motion moved by Councillor Padillo, second by Councillor Fortini, to receive the information. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. This takes us to 6.1. These are the summary recommendations for the Budget Committee. Do members of council have any specific questions for staff about the budget or wish to speak to the budget? Councillor Williams.
Thank you through you, Mayor. I would like to bring forward the bylaw budget that we had moved and passed on Monday. Peter Fay, do you have that?
Yes, we're bringing that up now.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, and members of council, there are changes that were provided by bylaw and finance to incorporate equipment needed, and also to ensure that the additional staff will have a net zero impact to our budget. So that's what the amendments do reflect. And just to ensure it's clear that the additional staff and the revenue that's generated from those positions will achieve a net zero impact. So those are the amendments, just to make it clear in that motion there.
Okay.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so the effect of Councillor Williams' motion is to replace BDC 052-2021 with her revised motion, which is shown here, and it does require a seconder.
Okay.
Happy to second.
Second by Councillor Bowman. I think that was that Councillor Bowman or I hear spoke?
It was.
Okay. Anyone opposed to the slight amendment? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay. Next question. Any other questions about budget recommendations?
This is where Councillor Fortini wants to speak about the hospital.
Councillor Fortini, did you have a question about the hospital?
just wanted some clarification. Like, there's a lot of confusion here, how much money we're putting, and so if there's something coming up on the hospital, I'll wait for that.
Now's the time for general.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I want to ask, we get a lot of media today calling about this hospital, that we have 62 something million. So I just want to clarify, when I brought that motion forward, where the money came from. That 21.9 million was left over from last levy, and we're taking money out of the reserves or capital projects from the reserves, the other 42.6 million. Is that correct, staff?
Councilor Martini, yes, my understanding is it's the 22 million that was previously dedicated to phase 2, and on top of that, it was the 40+ million of lapsed capital projects that weren't utilized. Nash, is that correct?
Through the mayor, yes, that is correct. The 40+ million are coming from Reserve 4.
Okay, so to the clerk, so when we brought the motion forward about the levy and it passed, the motion says to take the portion of the leftover levy and capital projects unspent, and also look at the surplus lands. That's what we supported. So staff did not bring that portion of the surplus lands forward.
Councilor Martini, can I make a friendly suggestion?
Yeah.
And that's that we're going to go to the region next, and we're going to use Councilor Martini's charm there. I know both him and I have already been working on some Mississauga councillors to tell them why this is good for the entire region, and we're starting to have some success. But if for some reason, we run into a problem at the region, having that staff report ready, say for example, they say they're not going to do 62, they're going to do 40, then having that staff report ready of surplus land that may not be necessary for the city, that would be helpful. And Councilor Martini's point is that staff report was requested and we don't have it yet. And so if we're going to be talking about this at the region in January or February, can we aim to have that staff report for council in February of what the status of unused surplus land is, and where there may be some opportunities to create funds available for the hospital if required, if we're not successful at the region. But Councilor Martini, I'm not counting out your charm yet.
No, and I get what you're saying, but we're shortfall $65 million, and I understand wherever the region gives, they give, and if they don't, then we're going to have to find the money somewhere else. That's why we asked, also part of the motion we passed, to look at surplus land. They only looked at the capital projects unspent from the reserves, and the other 22 million that we have from last time, they brought nothing forward on surplus land. So I'd like to have that as soon as possible to find out right after the region. If we don't get nothing, then we have to come up with a solution how to come up with the difference of the money. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good point, Councilor Martini. Are there any other questions? Councilor, I don't see other questions. So why don't we go to, the motions now?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we can take the motions as a package, or we can deal with them individually. It's up to council. I do wish to point out that there was the housekeeping amendment. So Charlotte, if you can go to BC 059, and we just need to bring forward that motion to do that housekeeping amendment. So this was item, I believe, 5.3 or 4 that council just considered earlier, and it's just a housekeeping amendment to clarify the numbers that need to be for reconciliation for the budget for capital and for operating. And this is included in the memo that was distributed to members of council today. So we do need a mover and seconder for this motion to amend BC 059 to replace A, B, and C with the A, B, and C that's shown on the screen, which has the correct numbers in red.
Okay, happy to move that. And my budget vice chair, Councilor Vasante, can second that. Did we pass the wrong numbers before?
They were just, they were general numbers, they were rounded, okay. So this is more precise numbers, okay, as I understand it. But I'll look to finance to, I believe this is still the accurate numbers?
That's correct.
Okay, okay.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, unless there's other questions on the budget, it can be taken as a package, save and except for, there are two declared conflicts, one from Councillor Fortini, one from Councillor Willen, so we should, council could take a vote on the balance of the Budget Committee recommendations as presented by Budget Committee, save and except for BC 046 and BC 054, and then we can take separate votes on those with the respective councillors exiting that
Okay,
portion
why
of
don't
the
we take it
meeting.
as a package and separate the conflicts?
Sure. So then the motion would be on the Budget Committee recommendations in whole, as amended by the Councillor Williams' motion for 052, and as amended by the Mayor's motion for 059, save and except for Budget Committee recommendation 046 and 054.
Recorded vote?
Recorded vote's been requested on the Budget Committee recommendations. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Councillor Visante.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
Councillor Medeiros.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Fortini.
Yes.
Councillor Singh.
Yes.
Councillor Dillon.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
That carries unanimously 11-0. So through you, Mr. Mayor, my suggestion is now we take a vote on BC 046, and Councillor Willens had declared a conflict on this. This is on the compensation portion of the Public Works budget, so Councillor Willens can step aside momentarily.
Stepping aside, Peter?
Okay, anyone opposed to that one item? Hearing none, the motion carries. Councillor Willens can come back in, and Councillor Fortini can step out for the next item.
So this would be a vote on recommendation BC 054, the compensation portion of the Legislative Services Department budget.
Okay, Councillor Fortini, you're stepping out. Anyone opposed to BC 054? Hearing none, the motion carries.
So that concludes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the Budget Committee recommendations, including the amendment to the housekeeping. Finance staff had identified that they wanted, there is a summary slide to present, and I'm just going to make sure to,
So, Peter, if I can just address you, we need a little time just to reflect the few changes that have been requested. So if we can have just 10, 15 minutes to make sure all the numbers are okay.
so through you, Mr. Mayor, if we can take a recess for 15 minutes to make sure that the final numbers are correct.
15 minutes, or how long do you need?
15.
Okay, it's 7:42. We'll come back at 7:57.
Members of council, this meeting is now recessed for 15 minutes until 7:57, and this is just to allow staff to do a final reconciliation of the numbers based on motions that have carried at tonight's special council meeting, and then staff will be presenting the final numbers, and then we will have the final technical recommendations for council to consider to wrap up the budget before concluding today's meeting.
Okay, council, I think we have all the numbers aligned. Do we have the members of, or do you need more time? Okay, we're just waiting for the nice chart to be ready. Okay, so
Mr. Mayor, the chart is just, the revised chart has just been sent. We're just receiving it in clerks now, and we'll just bring it up momentarily.
Okay.
Charlotte, Diana.
as
just
fast
sent
as an
it.
email can arrive from one side of the room to the other. Okay. So we're going to see the chart of everything we've done, and then Peter will have the technical motions.
So Charlotte, if you have the revised PowerPoint from Diana, we can project it now. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the treasurer wishes to speak to the slides.
Okay, Nash?
Through the mayor, thank you. If you can please just flip to the next slide, Peter. So on this slide, we just wanted to provide you with an overview of where we started with the proposed budget. So you can see on the top that we had an increase overall on the operating side of 2.8%, equivalent to $13.8 million, and an increase on the operating side. We took into account in the rows below all the decisions that have been made by council through budget deliberations, and tallied that up for, as you see in the bottom, an increase of 0% at this point, with $780 million in budget overall, which translates overall to 0% on the city portion of it. And as explained before, we'll have the regional portion of 1.5% on top of it for the overall bill increase. Next slide, please, Peter. On the next slide, we also wanted to give an overview of the capital program and how it has changed through the budget deliberations based on the decisions that council made on the different items. And as you can see, the overall impact is a shift of part of the capital spending from the later years into 2022. So it increased overall from $328 million approximately to $340,640,000. If there are any questions on any of this, please let me know.
Thank you, Nash. Peter, do you want to pull up the technical questions?
We'll pull up the technical motions now, Charlotte. I think they'll be in the other file, yeah. After 059. Keep going, just keep going. Right there, yeah. So these are, through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council, these are 9 recommendations that were identified as item 5.4 on the revised agenda, and they're listed here to do the final reconciliation and wrap up of the budget, consistent with council's intent. We'll need a mover and a seconder, please.
Okay. Happy to move that with my budget vice chair, Councillor Basante. Everyone's had a chance to read the motions. Anyone opposed to the technical motions? Hearing none, the technical motions pass.
So
we have a recorded vote.
Oh, okay, recorded vote. Over to the clerk.
A recorded vote's been requested on the motion on the screen. All in favor, please indicate. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Councillor Vasante.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi,
Yes.
Councillor Bowman,
Yes.
Councillor Maderos,
Yes.
Councillor Williams,
Yes.
Councillor Fortini, Councillor Fortini,
Yes?
thank you. Councillor Singh,
Yes.
Councillor Dillon,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
That carries unanimously, 11-0. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is item 7.1, correspondence, presented to this budget council meeting for receipt.
Okay, there's correspondence from Mary Ann and Steve Allen regards to the Robson Barn to the Boulevard House property. Motion to receive the correspondence.
Happy to move.
Sorry?
Happy to move it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Fortini. Anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, your vote will count in the affirmative. Hearing none, motion carries. This takes us to public question period.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was only one question, a procedural question, just asking from Ben McGilvery when the Budget Committee minutes, full minutes, will be available to the public. And just to respond, the Budget Committee recommendations only are approved, and the Budget Committee minutes, the full minutes, will be presented to the July 26th council meeting for receipt.
Okay. This takes us to bylaws. We're now at the portion of the meeting dealing with adoption of city bylaws to give effect to the council decisions made at this meeting. I have a motion moved by Councillor Vasante and seconded by Councillor Williams to approve the bylaw to amend the user fee bylaw to give effect to budget decisions. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, your vote will count in the affirmative. Councillor Vasante, you like a recorded vote on the bylaws?
Why not, Mayor? Why not?
Okay.
Members of council, a recorded votes requested on the user fee bylaw. All in favor, please indicate. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Councillor Vasante.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
No.
Sorry, Councillor Willens, I just want to, that was a yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
Councillor Maderos.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Fortini. Is a yes. Councillor
Yes.
Singh.
Yes.
Councillor Dillon.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
That carries unanimously, 11-0.
Okay. This takes us to closed session. There's no items in closed.
The only item in closed, Mr. Mayor, was the minutes from Budget Committee,
Okay.
and they can just be received. Item
Okay.
10.1.
Motion to receive the closed session minutes, moved by Councillor Willen, seconded by Councillor Maderos to receive the closed session minutes. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. This takes us to the confirming bylaw. Our next item of business, item 11, the confirming bylaw. I have a motion moved by Councillor Santos and seconded by Councillor Paleshi to approve the confirming bylaw to confirm the proceedings and decisions from this meeting. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, your vote will count in the affirmative. Hearing none, there are no objections, the motion carries. This takes us to adjournment, and before we adjourn, I just wanted to say a word. I want to start off by thanking our city clerk for being patient with all of us through this budget process. I want to thank our CEO for leading the staff effort. And in particular, I want to thank Nash and Mark, who have put hundreds of hours into our budget, answering all our questions, liaison with every department, and Nash and Mark, you should be proud. It is unusual when a budget is passed unanimously by City Council, which means you've been able to find a budget and a balance that really brings everyone together. I've witnessed here, being in the chair in the building, how diligent you have been. Lastly, I want to thank City Council. You asked some tough questions during this budget process. You advocated for your residents and we have a budget that we can be proud of. 4 tax freezes in a row is something that I don't think anyone envisioned as possible. At the same time, we are making another record investment in our reserves. We're contributing and setting the tone with a massive contribution to the hospital. We have enhanced recreation across the city with key investments. We're continuing to make investments in transit and city infrastructure. And I think this is a budget that our residents would be proud of as well. And that's our job, is to reflect their aspirations. And I think as we adjourn this meeting, I think of that senior on a fixed income struggling to make ends meet. I think of that family where every new pressure is a challenge. I think of that small business who has been through a tornado over the last 18 months with COVID-19. We've done them justice tonight. We've done them justice through this budgetary process, and acknowledge that we're going to do everything we can not to put any additional burdens on them, because we work for them. We work for those families. We work for those small businesses in our community. I thank you, City Council, for rising to the occasion and passing a budget that we can be proud of. Council is next scheduled to meet on Wednesday, January 26th at 9:30 a.m. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman and seconded by Councillor Santos to adjourn today's meeting. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, your vote will count in the affirmative. I know you'd all like to spend more time with Peter Fay and David Barrick, but there are no objections, so the motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Please have a safe and healthy holiday season. Practice social distancing. Listen to public health. Wear a mask.